Ray. I work at County.
I'm now in public affairs at General Mills.
Adil, we're going to introduce later.
Neil Young, Economic Analysis at V.
Mark Nelson with Statewide Finance. And
Brad Henry, Minnesota 2050. I was going to make a wise comment about Neil Young.
he's Canadian.
Hi, I'm Katie Haddock, consultant.
Katie Haddock, Cover County. Peterson at Council. Dan Marcello with the Regional Policy at the Metropolitan Council.
Bill Marlone at Council.
Did you need enough? Okay, so good. Sarah, go ahead.
Great. All right. I'm happy to be here to introduce our speaker, Adil Lari, for you. He's the Director of Innovative Financing in the State and Local Policy Program at the Humphrey School of Public Affairs at the University of Minnesota. He joined the university after more than 30 years with the Department of Transportation here in Minnesota. Lari's education includes a master's degree in civil engineering and an MBA in real estate and urban land economics from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He has earned certificates in mediation from the William Mitchell College of Law and in strategic public sector negotiations from Harvard University. Lari has spent years studying, championing, and implementing innovative transportation initiatives in Minnesota. His initiatives have won numerous awards, including the President's Model Award from AASHTO and the Distinguished Project Award from the National Council for Public-Private Partnerships. And he's here to talk about his work on the Transportation Finance Database.
Great. Thanks. I appreciate it. Well, I wish Professor Jerry Zhao was here, because some questions I can answer probably as well, but the others, Jerry is much better, but he's out of country, so I am here. So let's see whether I can respond to all your questions you might have. So this is, which one? Okay. So my presentation goes that why we have the database and what's the composition and sources for the data, and some database development and usage of it. I'll also show you some analysis we have done. Some of it is just example of it, and then after that I'll be more than happy to answer some questions. And actually I'll be more than even happier that if you could give me some suggestion regarding how we can improve the database and how it could be used better. So the issue is why we are trying to achieve, why the database. And so my understanding is that, the database on transportation finance, which we have pretty open, but it is not very transparent, because you can access the data, but there's no clear, even if you look at the data, there's no clear picture of what that is telling us. And also it is available but not accessible. And the data is available, you can access the data, but it is all very fragmented, confusing, and many times it's contradictory, or where the sources are, they are not consistent with it. So as Jerry likes to say, that it is a jungle of data, numbers, but there is no clear roadmap to that data. And I became really interested in the subject in the 90s when MnDOT was going through some transportation financing issues. So they told me, Adil, give me a lot of different titles: Director of Innovative Financing, Director of Public-Private Partnership. Every other month, I think I had a different title. But the idea was to come up with some ideas how to raise revenue. And so we look at at that time, my proposals included looking at mileage-based tax, congestion pricing, proposed the Heart Lane, which now ended up in MnPass Lane, look at the other project, which was the toll road. I don't know if any of you were here in Minnesota in the 90s when we tried to build toll roads. And and I was responsible for that. We got about 5-6 proposals for more than $2 billion. So my job was to go out and try to convince people why you should be looking at innovative financing. So I was, I remember one particular year, I look at all the presentations I made, I was making more than one a day, and talk to anybody and everybody, Rotary Club, to the chambers, to the cities, counties, retirees groups, and you name it. And what I found, it was very clear, that nobody has any understanding of transportation finance, where the money comes from, where it goes. And I was even more surprised that I went to MnDOT retirees. There were 3 deputy commissioners who were sitting there, retirees. They didn't even have the idea where the money comes from, where it goes. So after that, I happened to be director of research services. So I asked Tom Stinson, who was at that time the state economist and the professor of economics, to look at our transportation finance. So they did the study. So we went to present the finding to the both committees at the legislature. And at that time, when Tom mentioned that 1/3 of the revenue comes from property taxes, I tell you, there was silence and nobody could believe it. And these are the guys who sets our transportation finance infrastructure. So when I went to university and I got some resources, I felt that it was important that we should look at it, how we can find the database, how we can develop a database. And so the goal is to have the data from all over the different places. It's consolidated and longitudinal. And also, we are hoping that people like you and the research as well as the policymaker can use that to really get a clear understanding what the transportation finance look like in Minnesota. Well, as you know, the revenues for transportation come from a lot of different sources. So one is from the federal government. The allocation is from the instead of turning around, maybe I'll look at it here. So allocation is a Federal Highway Trust Fund. There's earmarks, not as much, but still there is some earmarks which comes from the annual federal budgetary process. Human services money comes from different places in transportation, and there's some grants, so like Tiger grants and all that. There's some money comes from there as well. The second is from the state. Most of the people think about the state money coming from the gas fuel tax, although there's a lot of other monies. Actually, the other ones actually more than actually gas tax. The vehicle registration fees, sales tax revenues, the general revenues being allocated now to transportation more and more, and then the bonds which are issued, and that goes up and down quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can ask questions.
Sure, okay, yeah, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Back on the federal government one, what was that human safety trade? What's that?
Well, they come from the transit and all that human service providing, disabled and elderly and all that, the transportation, that money comes, and that is obviously transportation revenue as well. And just that one is the most complicated one. Trying to track that baby is nearly impossible because it comes all the different phases and all the different places. Thousands of people, companies or an organization receives it. And then the local government now, general revenue allocation come from property taxes, earmarked local sales, municipal bonds, and post money. Now village taxes, some of the counties have the village tax that comes there. Some municipal bonds are issued. So all those revenues, so this comes for all 3 different levels. The next level is expenditure. Trunk highway program is there. The local roads, counties, cities, and townships. then transit programs, the MPOs, and then MnDOT in the statewide level, the transit programs are there. So all those are the expenditures. Sure.
Does the local roads wrap in bicycle and pedestrian expenditures? Or are those, how are those accounted for?
For example, what in a pedestrian? The bike trails and all that you mean? So
Yeah, like in investments in bicycling and pedestrian.
yeah. So all the roads purposes.
So that's wrapped in.
Yeah, all wrapped into it. So the data source, so if you go on our website, you'll see the data source, where it is coming. So we wanted to make sure that everybody understands the data, where it is coming from. So for example, obviously the highway user tax revenue is MnDOT, is a state level data, is only available. And then, so as you can see, individual county highway reports have the information from the county level. State auditors have very much detailed information of the fund data come from cities and the counties and everything else. Then VMT and all that, we put it there for the people to be able to analyze it. And then we use the National Transit Database with the agency level for the transit. So for development, what we did, they consolidated all the different sources. And then some of the data we allocated to the county level, because some of the data at state level comes there on how you allocate some expenditure. Like for MnDOT, do allocate by the county level, but the revenue, some of you might know that it is like gas tax is a wholesale level collected, it is not county level, so we made some assumption regarding VMT and all that and how that could be. And what we are trying to do is to have, as I said before, longitudinal and annually updated. So as soon as the data become available, we update the database. And we have interactive interfaces so you can do the spatial visualization and the different queries to the database as well. So if somebody has looked at MnDOT database, this is a typical report. You go on the website, this is very, very typically, that's what they report, where the money is coming from, where being expended. And obviously, if you look at 15, 20 years of that information, is very difficult to analyze it. You have 15 different sheets. So what we did, we coded that in each and everything. So motor fuel is B001, B002, and we coded that and put it in the database. So if you want to do that, you want to analyze it, you can go further down. It's a very, very rich information which is in that sheet. Very nicely done. But it only gives you a picture of one particular year. So that's how we did, so that the state B001, and it is from, that was just an example at that time, 2010, if we have the, I think, data available till 2014. So now you can look at it and see how it is changing. And then some of the information is B005 is the addition of some other data. So that's also, we try to explain how that information is going or flowing to that different levels. There's a couple of errors in there, but anyway, so it has been fixed. So that's how we are trying to develop, and we have developed these files. So why we are doing it, and hope is that, you know, people like you who are in the research will understand the funding system, and we are hoping that we'll be able to then do the economic return of the investment as well in the future if we want to do that. And to facilitate legislative decision making, as much as the legislature ever cares about the data to make the decision, but hopefully that they will look at that information and make a better decision. And hopefully it will enhance the public engagement. Hoping that legislature make the decision by information, that will be something else.
What are you thinking about with the economic returns of the investment that what you'd like to do?
Well, if different counties have a different, cities have different investments, so look at that, whether addition or subtraction, of the transportation investment makes any difference. The economic, vitality of that particular area. So, for our own research purposes, we feel that if we have that data at one time, we don't, for not every project, we have to keep on going back and then bring it up. So this information will be easier for us to do all these studies. So this is our website, and there's a web link. You can go to the link and, and look at the data, and I hope that you go there. So this is part of our Humphrey School, our state and local policy program. The TPAC is our initiative. We are doing a few other things there. That's where the finance database is housed. So you can search it through CTS website as well if you go there. So there's another page of our website where we have posted this stuff. We are trying not to do too much analysis. We just, at the present time, we just want to develop a very robust database because we want to be stay very independent. I'll give you some of the examples of that. So the frequently asked questions, somebody asked, that how do you estimate the total amount of transportation revenue that are paid by one county? So as I was saying before, the gas tax, for example, comes from the wholesale. It doesn't come to the county level. So what we did, that's the assumption we made that the VMT will be the good way to calculate. So we are taking a VMT for a county and divide by the total VMT, and that ratio of the gas tax we are locating to that particular county. This is our assumption, so we wanted to make sure that the people understand how we are assuming how much money is being generated from each county. Yes.
Yeah, but are you estimating the property tax by county that's going forward?
No, that data is available, but even the gas tax. Okay, if the gas tax is being generated at a different level, so we want to make sure, okay, this county generates that much gas tax. And gas taxes are not collected at the pump.
Right.
It is collected, most of the people think it is collected there, but it is collected at the wholesale level. So how you allocate to different counties?
That doesn't.
So we want to make sure that every county gets their own tracks at how much revenue of the transportation revenue is being generated.
Might have more to do with the gas stations located than how many vehicle miles are being traveled in that county. So,
No, but even if the gas where the pump is there doesn't matter.
okay.
Because it depends upon where the
Where it's being expended.
where they spend. So that's the VMT. That's how we spend as well as generated the VMT. Otherwise, there will be only 2 or 3 places, 4 places, because gas tax is collected at the wholesale level. So it is where actually the wholesaler is there, not necessarily what is being sold. So we wanted to allocate the cost to each and every county, so how much the revenue there is being generated.
What's the VMT?
Oh, sorry, vehicle mile travel.
Okay.
So, so we believe that vehicle mile travel tells us how much gas is being burned in that particular area, in that particular county. And if it is burned, how much you're using it, that what tells you how much revenue it is generating from that particular county.
The database is structured as it looked like what you had there were Excel tables, but.
Yeah,
So is the database just a set of Excel tables, or is it?
yeah, Excel tab, yeah.
Okay. And so then you took essentially what the state had, plus modified that to allocate costs out.
To the county level.
So this is revenue, not expenditures.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right.
The expenditure, we can find it because MnDOT is pretty good. All their projects are by county line.
Okay.
So we know from there that where the money is being spent at the MnDOT. And obviously county has report to auditors and all that, so we can look at that or city level. But that particular gas tax was the one particular one which we needed to make assumption how that gas tax is allocated to the county. Because tabs, so you can find it because the, license tab you pay up by the county and all that, so that you can do that. For gas tax, we needed to make the assumption. So we wanted to be very clear what assumption we made.
And where did the vehicle miles traveled come from?
The MnDOT and counties all count the VMT. They have counters on the roads.
All right.
And from there, they estimate how many miles were traveled in each county. So that report is there, so we just use that.
So how soon are you going to use the results from driverless cars to supplement that?
That's another subject of my interest to me, so, he's harassing me about that particular issue, so.
Adil, is there enough information in the database to connect how the revenue is raised with how it's spent? Can you trace the money from, hopefully trunk highway fund money is then being spent on highways, but for your different revenue sources, are we able to trace kind of where it goes and how it gets spent?
Yeah, I think some of the tables will show it to you, and if you don't get that answer, I'll explain to you. So this is expenditure in Minnesota. So 2000 to 2014, so the county expenditure, city expenditure, township, and the state level. So that's, so you can track the expenditure for each county, where it is coming from. So if you want to compare for each particular county, yeah, you can. So how much money is being raised and how much money is being spent in that particular county.
I guess I'm wondering, say, in the city of St. Paul, how much of the money being spent on transportation came from federal, state, or other places?
Yeah. So you can see that the maximum was 2007. Before the Great Recession, it started going down to a certain extent. And then 2008 gas tax and other revenue increases, and now it starts showing up the expenditure. Expenditure usually lags a little bit behind the revenues. See the expenditure.
Can I ask, given the project can span a number of years, does this log the
Yeah.
cost the year the project begins?
No, it is when they
Each
spend.
year that the funds start to first
Yes,
report?
that's right.
Okay.
And that's a good question, and for cities and all that is very, very important. And that's why I tell people that don't use it one particular year, because some smaller cities usually save the money for 8-10 years and they do one big project.
Also, given the debate going on at the Capitol right now, like, do we find general
Yeah.
this year, these are projects where you can't
Yeah,
do year by year.
that's right. Yeah. So,
If I could ask about
yeah.
As I recall, 2009, 2010, there was a federal initiative to just put money out there, fill potholes, do whatever to try and stimulate the economy. But it does not appear that Minnesota really had much of a bump.
There's not that much money. It might look like that, but it always, most of the money comes through the target. So the total revenue wise,
Probably offset a little
Yeah.
bit the effect of the recession.
yeah.
What they were trying to do.
Yeah, but it is not in the bigger of the picture, few 100 million, 50 million, but it doesn't make that much of a difference.
So, but that money would flow through state, county, city, or,
Yeah.
but do
money?
Yeah, the federal money basically comes to the state. So it comes to the trunk highway, so then most of the expenditure in the trunk highway. So there's no federal road as such, so the roads are state. So money comes to the state and that gets distributed from there.
Would it be possible to differentiate between kinds of projects in each of those categories? So for instance, highway lane expand, an additional highway lane versus a ridership program for travel demand?
No, I think that would be tough. You could do some respect with some of the state information, but we have not looked at that closely because it becomes a little bit messy. So, the projects, if you look at the, my own days of the transportation, when I was there, your coding is by county level. It doesn't code very much by type of the project it is.
Right. Okay.
So,
The state does now. I mean, I think we're compelled to do that. We track by type of investment.
yeah.
All these activities, because there are a lot of projects that have 3 or 4 different purposes kind of wrapped into one, so it's got safety elements. The preservation elements may be a little bit but that's the goal, is to,
Yeah.
that's how we plan. We have to start to look back and be able to.
Yeah, but really getting that really close is pretty
That's a
difficult.
different question.
Because when we code it, when the people putting the timesheets and putting the projects and all that is very, very difficult to code all of them very accurately. So,
How do
yeah.
you define transportation expenditures? Is it obviously transit on highways, but is it highways operations, snow plowing and capital investment? Is it in the cities and counties? Is it pedestrian facilities as well as the roadway? Have you established like a definition of transportation for this?
But auditors do, the transportation expenses, we are using that definition for the auditor's definition of that. So.
Neil, another question?
Yeah.
On cities, you've got all the cities lumped together. Do you ever break them out on state aid and non-state aid cities?
Yeah, you will see the townships and all that.
All state aid, the cities smaller than 5,000 are non-state aid.
Yeah.
One of the things in our survey that really surprised us is the value of the infrastructure on small cities is half of all of MnDOT and Met Council. We were extremely surprised at that. Your chart here is showing if you were to break those out, the small and large cities, you might be surprised at that.
Yeah. Let me show you some other stuff, what we have done. So another was transportation expenditure as percentage of GDP. So we thought people like to know what the percentage of GDP is spent on transportation. So you can see that. I don't know if it's worthwhile or not, but.
How does it compare to other states?
How
does that compare to other states?
That's a good question. We are, that's the next step. We are trying to collect the data from all of the other states. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so another one is trunk highway expenditures, percentage of annual state expenditure. How that comes up, so we do that graph and tells us, what is happening. I don't know, it's nice to know. So, but our data can be done, used to do those kind of analysis. Okay. So expenditure versus VMT, vehicle mile travel. So as you can see, it used to be much higher. We have reduced. So is the usage-wise that how much we use, we generate, and how much expenditure is based on vehicle mile travel.
What does that data use? Does that say efficiency or underinvestment
Yeah, probably more efficient if you are spending less money per VMT. The more you spend per VMT, I mean, that's not as efficient.
Well, it could be somebody saying we're not investing sufficiently based on how much we're using the infrastructure.
You can say that as well.
I mean, is there any thought in terms of how you would track sort of what they're spending funds they have, but then is there a way that the database could integrate sort of what's on the wish list?
You know, there's a curve issue comes up there. There's a time comes where the efficiency is there. The more you can use, the better it is, the less money. But there's a time comes when it breaks down, and then you can say, okay, performance-wise, you are not spending. So where that curve is, I don't know. And I will say, if we're looking at personally, majority of the places, we have over expenditure. Because I drive all around the state, most of the roads are 4-lane roads and nobody is on the road. So I don't believe that personally, although I am an ex-MnDOT guy, that we actually we have a problem with finance. Personally, that's my personal opinion. Although I used to go and tell everybody we need more money, and but you know, but those wrote my checks and I was supposed to carry the banner. But when I look at it now, I don't think we need more money. That's my personal opinion.
I'd rather reallocating existing resources in different
Yeah,
ways.
I don't. You know, we have pretty good infrastructure. We don't, you know. That's my personal opinion. So.
I know the Citizens League is studies looking
Yeah.
at highways, and they've noted that Minnesota's trunk highway system is as large as Texas, and that there needed to be, as there was depopulation of some of the rural areas, that it would behoove Minnesota not to maintain some of the more rural trunk highways where there has been sparser population.
You know, some people believe that actually some of the roads which are paved should not be paved, should let it to become a gravel. Tell it to the last mile farmer, you know. That's the problem. In the county level, there's some discussion. Some of the rural counties feel that we shouldn't be even paving those roads. There's some signals, we shouldn't have those signals there. But tell the person, you know, to the neighborhood that you shouldn't have that signal. You know, so those are the issues. Those are political issues, sort of, you know, efficiency issues. Everybody want a 4-lane divided highway to their door. Do we need that? You know, most of the people, if you look at only the efficiency and performance-wise, say no. But we keep on building those.
So with this database help can you come down to the township, the county, the city level and look at expenditure compared to vehicle miles traveled, or?
Yeah, we hope so.
I don't think that this is a reflection of efficiency. I think that if you think that we're efficient, then it is. If you think that we're not getting enough money,
This
doesn't answer a question regarding
Right,
how
not
it's
this
been.
particular
Yeah.
graph.
No, I agree with you. No, I agree that this is not, you know, because it is a curve issue, you know, where it is, and some places probably we need more investment, other places probably we don't. This one is the aggregate information. So you are absolutely right. It doesn't tell one way or the other.
But you have, there's a few impacts here. You have expenditure increasing, so you must have vehicle miles traveled increasing, but you also have fuel efficiency standards that would impact on that too.
Yeah.
So you have,
This is expenditure. This is not the revenue. Expenditure.
Vehicle miles traveled has been flat for a decade.
Yeah, that's the next term. This is this tells us how motorization in Minnesota peaked. As you can see, we have tried to analyze it, vehicle mile traveled in millions itself. As you can see, it has peaked in Minnesota long, you know, for many years. And then interesting, VMT per person is actually coming down. So actually, if there was not a population increase, that would have been really come down. So people are driving less and less. And VMT per driver, you can see coming down, vehicle per vehicle is coming down. But interesting thing is that before I came, I was reading an article in New York Times. I think New York Times was this morning. They were talking about that weekend. A lot of people now admit that the weekend, instead of going to partying and this and that, they are staying home because they think that the web connection is sufficient for their enjoyment and they don't have to go out there. So I personally feel that with the advent of faster internet, 3D printing, virtual realities and all that, who want to go travel? Why we will travel? So I think VMT will go down even more and more. Anyway, so that's and this one I just wanted to show what kind of analysis can be done, but I wouldn't want to use it to have any message because only a 1-year picture, and you would like to have a 5 or 10-year picture and a little bit longitudinal information. But the per capita transportation expenditure in Minnesota is 100 big cities.
I think it does point to part of the geographic challenge, though. I mean, I want to get back onto the rural roads question, but
Yeah.
we have population centers all over the state and a lot of transportation of goods moving through in different directions. So there are just a lot of roads that have to be maintained.
Yeah. So actually, so anyway, so the data is available to do this kind of analysis. The per capita expenditure in the big cities, per capita transportation is 100 biggest city within the metro area. Can do that. So again, it's a single snapshot, and especially cities, as I was saying before we start the presentation, is that a lot of cities, there might be some big bridge were rebuilt, or that particular year, suddenly you will look at a huge expenditure that year, or for the 2-3 years, but next 5 years, there's no expenditure, especially in smaller cities. Many times they save the state aid money for many years and then they spend it some big infrastructure project. So you need to be cognizant of those things and when you are analyzing the data. But I think better to have a longitudinal analysis, do some regression analysis with some variable controls. But this is an interesting one. The share of local effort in Minnesota road expenditure in 2010. It's just a 2010 picture. Obviously, there is no local expenditure in the state trunk highways, so it's 0. County roads, 47% of the money in the county road comes from the county money. The other 53 come from the state and federal money. Township roads, 84%, city road, 85%. So most of the transportation expenditure in the township and roads come from their own monies. And total Minnesota roadway expenditure, 52%. So 52% of all the road expenditure in the state come in 2010 came from local money. That's the property tax mostly.
That number has increased over time, or what?
Yeah, it used to be 33% when we did the study some time ago. So most of the people don't realize that most of the money comes from property tax. So this is a local effort share of the road expenditure. So one is the local road expenditure. The other one talks about including the trunk highway. So you can see it was higher, comes down, going back up. So it has a dip. But it used to be much lower. It went up. Then again the increase in gas tax and all that has caused a little bit reduction. Back up again, local effort, a share of the local road expenditure. So that's again that where the graph was. That's showing again here that townships, again, they spend huge amount of money. Mostly all of it comes from the transportation, comes from the property taxes or local resources. So that message, when the people talk about increasing the state revenues, that's what it is. If you don't, the cities and counties end up spending the money, if you have property tax monies onto the roads. So we did some more analysis between, instead of just 1 year, we did 5-year period. And what we general pattern, we did that mostly more down combined and less up. So you can see it here. 2004 to 9, then 2009 to 13, all local government combined. Some places it went up, some places went down. So some of those analysis you can. That the counties, some counties have increased, some have decreased. So this was not trying to draw any conclusion. I just wanted to show what kind of analysis you can do from the data we have. We can do for the city level the same kind of thing. Then can go all the way to township level. So we have the information of each township level. So what we are planning to do is to first to keep on expanding and updating the database and linking investment to the system performance. Hopefully we'll get some work done, do some benchmarking, trying to benchmark with other states and maybe other countries, because one day I was making presentation to so Senator Dibble asked, so how you compare it to the other countries, other states? So hope is that people will use this data to have some better public engagement.
Are you finding so far that other states have the information together to be able to compare?
Gross level it is, but individual city and county level is a different formats and everything else. They report it differently, so we're trying to figure out whether we can use that information or not. So there's a postdoctoral student who's very interested in that, so let him go and work on it and see what they can find. The issue is always the resources, how much time and effort you can put on these projects. But at least we have the resources to keep on expanding and updating the database for the next few years. So what do you guys think? Is it worthwhile to have some data like this or no? Yeah.
You are updating the data annually, is that correct?
Yeah. As soon as the different information comes, so we're making sure that we keep on bringing it up. But some data is lags, have much more lag than the other. MnDOT sometimes, obviously if they are not as busy, they're good to provide information. So
You indicated you're getting data from the state auditor.
yeah.
You know offhand what types of data you're getting from the state auditor?
Yes, that's what shows the very first one. So, all the cities and counties report to the auditor. So, all the way in the front. There it goes. that you look at that county government fund data, city government and township, that comes from the auditors.
So they report annual expenditures.
So all the cities counted.
Take out their property
Yeah,
tax revenue and all.
so, so all that information goes to the auditor and we pick it up from there. So
How detailed is that by mode?
I don't think it's that much detail.
So it's just like one category
Yeah,
of
for
transportation
transportation,
spending?
yeah, yeah.
And they have a definition of step. Yeah.
That's a question Jerry could answer much better than I can. I've not looked at the auditor's report as closely, so.
But do you think that the database is impacting decisions currently?
Well, we just started doing this, so not many people know even that that information is available.
It is available. Can anyone access it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just go to our website and you can access it. Absolutely, yeah. So that's what we're hoping that more people use it. The more they use it, it will have more impact.
Track websites.
Yeah. No, so please go there and look at it and see what you think,
When did it start up? When did it become available?
We started a project a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, so, some of the information became available last year. So, but now,
Who's shown interest so far?
well, a couple of the legislators showed some interest, but I don't want to, be partisan, so I will keep my mouth shut regarding that. Who did it? But yeah.
Next year, we're updating the transportation policy plan for the region. I can see us, we have a transportation finance chapter. I think
Yeah.
we could use some of this data and supplement what we've already got,
Good.
reading the audit data.
Okay.
We try to even, there's been a few questions about trying to drill down into the types. We've been looking at, for the Sutton County Metro, at operations and maintenance costs and reservation versus expansion type capital expenditures. It's pretty tough to do because of the varying counties and cities and how the terminology they use and how they group things. So it's not an easy task unless you really get everybody on board and get definitions straight.
Yeah, no, it is tough. And we are trying to get that social services data. And we are, I don't know, you were there at Humphrey when we did a survey. About 4 or 5 years ago, we did a survey for transportation, who was involved in it. We found about 3,000 different people, organizations involved in providing transportation. So trying to get on.
3,000?
3,000 or 4,000, yeah. And it is a social service. And some people have the half a truck, and half a bus and this. And they get the money from the social services to provide the transportation.
Is there any geographic trends within that? Was it more rural communities or was it?
No, every place.
Everywhere.
Everybody, who work in the disabled community, the elder communities, and this,
There was small towns, big cities.
this is every place. Big town in the city, here in metro area, there are so many social services organizations. So, unbelievable amount. We thought it was easy role, and then you look at the efficiency issue. One bus, or one van with a driver, 70–80% of the time, basically the van is just parked. Whether this is the right way to do it or not, but everybody thinks their obviously goal is the most important one. So trying to track all of it is very, very difficult. So we are hoping that we'll do that, but we need to have some buy-in saying, okay, this is the definition of the expenditure. We don't want to just throw it out there,
Do you have any opinion? You've got a lot of data there. At least the data that people are interested in, are there one or two or three that kind of bubble right up to the top of the list that people are most interested in, or haven't you seen that?
No, I have not. Not many people have used it, so I don't know what it is. We just put it there. And so some people have asked for some of the analysis and all that. We did that work, but
You have,
yeah.
you have a plan to have, whether it's Humphrey students or somebody like that, just data mining?
Well, we're hoping, that the issue is,
Into a capstone
but it's,
project or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll work with some of them for capstone. Otherwise, we obviously, if you have a research assistant, it's an issue of the resources. How much resources we have to be able to have some research assistant who can do their work.
Have you done any, or has anyone tried to analyze which counties are, I don't know, getting more expenditure than they contribute in revenue, or the opposite?
No, we can do that, so but over the length of time.
Once in a while, when our region's spending a lot more than we're getting back, type thing. But where you purchase your fuel and where you travel are two very different.
Yeah, but that's why we did.
You can also purchase your fuel on the border, so it's not that clean that you can say we're spending this much and we're getting this much back.
But
Well, with VMT, which makes a lot more sense.
that's what we thought that is the best way of doing that. VMT, to allocate the revenue where the money is coming from, because VMT is the one which gas tax, every other revenue you can generate. And and also gas tax is now much smaller percentage of total revenue, because 52% in 2010 came from the local revenue. So even the state, the other 48%, and you have a licensed tab, obviously those are county level, this and that. We start dividing it up. It's actually gas tax is not that big. So even if you are a little bit off, it will not make that much of a difference.
If you look at the bump up after the recession, you showed that year over year. That was, I think, more vehicle sales tax was a big growth area, not gas tax.
I see you've got transit systems in here, and I'm just, are you capturing revenue as well as expenditure on the transit systems, like light rail buses? And I would just throw in taxis and Uber and.
Well, taxis and Uber, it's a private investment, so
there's no tax on those where you get some kind of information.
But they are paying the gas tax, they're paying license tax and everything else, so that's revenues coming. So that's the same way. We have not additional taxes on that. Okay. All the cities have that. Cities get from taxis and all that, and parking and all that. So.
Well, I wouldn't imagine taxis and Uber is going to be much revenue statewide, but transit, I would think there might be.
Yeah.
In Greater Minnesota, there's a requirement. Local transportation state has to have. There's a match requirement. So there's a state, federal, and there's a match requirement, and I believe that revenue from tickets, that is part of the local match. I think that's how it's actually, but they have to. I'm sure of all of these, one that's most closely reported are the federal requirement that they show kind of that where the funding is coming from. Where it's
from. Okay, well, we take this opportunity to thank you all for coming, but also I wanted to mention that on May 11th, a month from now, our speaker is Maria Henry, who's also coming up with a number of students doing capital projects on homelessness research in the metro area. And then on June the 8th, we have a presentation on Tableau, using Tableau, a couple of people from the state government. And then in July, is Grant Dewey, who works for Minnesota Department of Corrections, who's done profiling mass shooters to look at can we predict what kind of mass shooter it is. So we're programmed pretty far out. We have additional come, second Wednesday of the month. We meet right here, 12:30, 1:30. And we have the room until 2 o'clock if some of you would want to ask individual questions to our speaker. And with that, I would like to thank our speakers for joining us.
Really curious about the
Not sure of what it is.
progress.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'll email